So let me start, sir. I have seen your profile, but I would like to take a brief introduction from yourself. How has been your
Sure.
journey, and then I will start my questions.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll start from where it all started. I come from a very small place called White. My father, as I mentioned to you yesterday, he was a wrestler and he wanted us to be in some kind of sport. So it's a small town called Vai near Panjgani, Mahabaleshwar. And we started playing there. And table tennis was the sport that we chose after kind of seeing, watching a couple of other sports. Obviously, it started with wrestling, but my father, thought that we are not meant for it. So the journey from why started, and then the first 2 years we saw some success, and then we moved to Pune in 1986. So my main career was in sports, and that is what I always wanted to do in my life. So I was state champion for 7 years. I captained the Maharashtra team for 12 years in various categories, including sub junior, junior, and senior. I was number two. India number two player in sub junior and junior. I was doubles and team championship, national champion. Played for India in junior Asian championships. Then I went on to become India number five in seniors. I'm also a Chhatrapati awardee. That's a award given by Maharashtra state government for the best sportsman of the year. And during that journey, I got an opportunity to play in Swedish leagues. So I played 2 years of Swedish leagues in Falkenberg club, and then played US Open Championship. But that's where the decision kind of that took a turn. That US Championship just kind of led me to understand that IT is the place where money can be made, and even though my passion was table tennis, the kind of money that we were getting that time, I'm talking of 1998, 99. So that's where the transition became happened, and then I moved to IT. I did my Microsoft and Cisco certification that started with system administrator role, network administrator role. Did that for almost 10 years. Then I got introduced to the ISO world, the ISO 27000 and 20000 in one of the organizations I was working for. So I did my ISO 27000 and 20000 lead auditor certification. I was lead auditor. I was doing customer audits, and that's the time I liked the process side of it. And then I did my ITL expert certification. So I'm an ITL expert. And during all this journey, I was majorly into service management, doing the service delivery manager role. My last job was with HCL Technologies, and that's where I got introduced to pre-sales side of it, and that is where I decided that I think the next step should be of going on my own and be my and get into the IT consulting side of it. So currently I have two contracts. One is a product company from US, and they are into data protection. The company's name is Catalogic Software, and we compete with the Veeams and Commvaults and Veritas of the world. So I am a sales director for Asia Pacific for them, and also the country manager for India. And then there's another company called Blue Cocoon Digital. That's again one of my old table tennis friend, that they are into digital transformation. And I did my my role was to kind of set up the processes for them, the ITL processes. And now I'm doing the business development for them as well. So these are my two contracts. And apart from that, sports being an integral part of my life, I'm a sports administrator, and unfortunately, I lost my brother in 2006. So we have a foundation in his name, Rajesh Shelar Mentor Foundation, and under that we do conduct a lot of tournaments, and district level, state level, and national level tournaments. And in table tennis, we are among the pioneers who started giving scholarships. So from 2013 up till now, we have given scholarships to a tune of 35 lakhs, even though it's not a big amount, but from our side, we have tried to kind of do whatever best we can do to the players from grassroots, because that's where the real talent can be identified. So more or less, this has been my journey, and I thought I'll
Thank you, sir.
take you
Thank you.
all around. Yeah.
And I'll today I'll this discussion I will restrict myself to my PhD research work,
Sure,
and
sure.
my research is in the area of role of mentoring in the scalability of startups, basically. So how a mentor plays an important role in any journey of a startup, you can call, or a scale up, you can call. From that perspective, I have a few questions for you, which I will record,
Sure.
and like you, I'll be doing with many others, so that some kind of common pattern I'm trying to explore, like what is that something, and through a research methodology. So that's how the PhD
Sure.
works. So I'll start,
Sure.
sir, with my questions, and they are very open-ended questions. So you feel free to take some example, or you can explain with one company which you are involved with, or any of the things based on your past experience.
Sure.
So I'll start with share the details of your preparations before the start of the mentoring program as a mentor. So you have been helping companies, you said. So what are the things you look at before you even start working with them?
Yeah. So first of all, I looked at, whether they're a product company or services company. If either of it, what is their differentiator? Do they have any niche? Is it that they are too attached to what they have been developing or too attached to what they are selling? Because that's another point where I've seen things fail, because what what is needed in the market, that is something. So you have to first identify the problem area, what is the need, and then based on that, you should kind of do the reverse engineering and not the other way around. People kind of tend to get into this mode where they get too attached to what they are developing, and not necessarily they have a marketplace for that. So that has been my kind of observation there, and that's where I kind of make sure that what I'm getting into, is this something which is solving a problem for someone. For example, my second stint of digital transformation, there are so many players in digital transformation. There are so many people, they are talking of AI, ML, IoT, all that. Those are the buzzwords that are going on. But the reason why I'm attached to this company is because they have solutions for agri-tech, and not many players are there. So that is where I kind of keep my focus on, or that's how I choose what I'm getting.
Sure. The next one, help me understand the actions you took to establish trust and collaborative mentoring environment with your mentee. Basically, what was your the first step to build more like a trust with the company which you got involved, or which you
Yeah,
mentored?
yeah. So again, my background of being a sportsman definitely helps in establishing that credibility, because I've been captain for many years. So I kind of make sure that the team understands that it is all teamwork. Of course, there everyone has a role to play, but eventually it is all a team game, and so that's where I can kind of make them understand the goal of, it's not just I, but if you kind of understand the vision where company is heading, what eventually we want to kind of deliver. If you make them a part of that process, make them understand that how all these pieces work together, and only then, because the thing is, if company succeeds, you are going to succeed. So in company success lies your success. So that's the kind of thing we kind of try to put that message on. Keep a very open and transparent interaction. If there are any questions, we definitely encourage those questions. Plus, there are, like for any organization, there are ups and downs. uh, so as happily we share the ups, it is also imperative to share the downs with the mentees, because that stops the speculation part of it. If you kind of let them know what's going on, then they're okay. But if you kind of try and hide that information, then the speculation starts, and that kind of has a ripple effect of spreading negativity, and then uh, people start kind of leaving organization. So it has a very cascading effect of that. So a negative effect. So better to have that open communication. With that, if people wants to kind of still go ahead and leave the organization, that's still okay. But they are going with an informed decision, not with speculation.
Got it. Share your expectations from the mentoring program before the start of the mentoring program or sessions.
I definitely like to have clarity, and that is something which, again, as I mentioned, like what I'm getting. So you're talking from a mentor point of view, right? Like how I get into it.
Yes.
So yeah, again, like what is the product, what is the service, what are the solutions, and kind of before getting into the signing of the contract, or before getting engaged, I do my due diligence of that, and uh, that helps me make the decision. So I go by the data. I do a lot of research of what's currently going on the market, and based on that, since I don't have a very formal education background, so the companies I'm working for are not. I mean, this my contract, my entrepreneurial journey where I'm working. They are not big companies. They're small companies. Obviously, big companies, it's going to take time for me to go and reach them. But even though it is a small company, I want to make sure that I'm not, my time is utilized well, and whatever expense I bring to the table, it has to be valued there. So I do a bit of research of that company, the solutions, and how they are placed in the market.
Sure. And share those of your expectations which met successfully during or after the mentoring sessions.
Uh, yeah, so I have two varied experience. One is for for an organization, especially when it's business development role, or if you don't have a big name with you and you're just starting up, you need to have that patience. You need to give time to someone who's kind of trying to do this for you. So that kind of confidence is very, very important, even though, as you know, sales is a very, very long cycle. So my one of, I'm not me, but one of my experience of this was one company was very, very understanding of it, that, this is a process and it's going to take time to establish a name, build the marketing activities, creating the buzz for them, talking to a lot of people, creating that leads, having that long pipeline, and then start conversion. So one company is pretty understanding. The other one was little impatient. So if I had to kind of take a lesson from that, one needs to understand that, if you're doing the process right, then you also need to make sure that, keep patience. Things are not going to happen overnight, especially you are a startup.
Exactly the opposite question. Share those of your expectations which did not meet successfully during or after the mentoring sessions.
Yeah. So did not meet was the same thing, like where the expectation was like too high, and then once you're not able to deliver that, it is not because of anything else, but it's just that there are some things which definitely take time, and that's what I was not able to kind of. I was able to pass on the information. I was able to kind of communicate this well, but uh, mm, but I don't think that was. I think things should have been done differently. Things should have been accepted differently for this to work well. So this is a not so good experience of people not. And again, of course, there may be some things which I may have not have done well, but my experience still has been that I'll again give an example, which I always have given to my sportsmen is no matter what. Um, so, for example, if you're making a biryani, uh, and no matter how many best of ingredients you have, you put all those ingredients, but despite all of that, it's going to take some time to cook. So it doesn't mean that you have best of things, but and that not necessarily it's going to make it ready for you instantly. So that cooking process needs to be kind of seen well, understood well, and that has been my experience where that is not kind of understood well. If that answers the question.
Help me understand if this mentoring program helped you learn and grow personally. If it did help, then elaborate how.
Yeah, so I'm still learning because in just year and a half that I've started on this journey. So almost every day it's definitely learning. And biggest lesson what I have learned or biggest uh, um, takeaway from this journey has been that in job you are kind of you don't expand your horizon. In job, you're just stuck to that, whatever role which is given to you, and you kind of do that, and that's about it. You don't explore. Here, because of this role, you kind of meet so many people from the industry, and just by interacting with those people, just by being there in those sessions, so there are a lot of peer groups that I'm now engaged with, and whatever learnings that happen there is tremendous because in this journey of yours, it's not necessary that you learn everything by yourself. When you are in the peer group, you learn from examples of others where they have made mistakes. And some of the peer groups that I'm in, especially one we call Maven's group. In that group, what I've seen is like it's very transparent interaction. What's going on in your organization? What are your problems? How, as a peer group, we can give advice as a third person. That is one. And then there are so many other places where I've been interact. I got an opportunity to interact with Anandesh Pandey from Persistent, Meher Padanji from Tharmac. So those are the stalwarts of the game. Otherwise, if I was doing the job, otherwise I wouldn't have probably gone and attended those sessions. So all these are enriching experiences for me.
Sure. Share those of your knowledge, experiential, and other attributes or strengths which you thought you could leverage to help your mentee.
Yeah. So I always talk of attitude because, and I'm another example of that because I don't have formal education. I'm just a commerce graduate. But sports taught me that attitude of no matter what, you have to still give your best and still try. As I always believe that no match is won till you win the last point, and no match is lost till you have lost the last point. So you keep at it, keep at it. That's one advice I have given. And yes, no doubt, aptitude is very very important. But more than aptitude, attitude matters a lot. So uh, that is what I have kind of tried and instill in the mentees. And
Sure.
I think that's more important.
Yeah, yeah. Some will be repetitive, so don't have to
Sure,
worry
sure.
about it because the questionnaire is the fixed questionnaire.
Sure.
So
Okay. Okay.
help me understand the expectation you had from your mentee.
Okay. So one is my biggest expectation is one should be inquisitive because if you're not inquisitive, that again maybe I'm wrong, but for me it is if you're not inquisitive, that means you're not interested. If you're interested, definitely you should come up with your own questions. So that is one thing it's the first thing which I expect from them, and then of course the learning attitude and other things follow. But the first is inquisitiveness and enthusiasm.
Sure. Share the actions and activities of your mentee which helped in establishing trust, collaborative environment, and make the best use of this mentoring program. Elaborate how those actions helped. From a mentee perspective, this question is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So when twenties are at that stage, they definitely need guidance. You can't just throw things at a very high level to them and expect them to kind of run through with that. So you kind of have to break that to them and explain. And once you do that, then of course there are certain action items sort of that. And if there are action items, you also have to keep space that what are the barriers. So you have to keep all that space outlined to them and give them the KPIs, what is expected out of them. And with all that places, you kind of um, then you kind of assess them that okay how they are kind of delivering despite of giving all this information. Um, so it's definitely not a high level information that I have passed on. I have always given them a clear picture with steps that this will be phase one, then phase two, and what is expected at this stage. If there are any barriers that you see that, then you have to come and kind of note those down and then kind of highlight it to us that what are the barriers. So that is kind of it's every day kind of thing. It's when it is mentee, every day this interaction that you have to keep going, keep it on is what kind of help me get that message passed on and help them deliver.
Sure. Share the knowledge, experiential, and other attributes or strengths of your mentee which you liked and elaborate why.
Yeah. So one of my mentee was a guy called Prasad Deshpande, and I can definitely say that he's more talented than I am because what I've seen is like his approach towards research, his approach towards understanding the process side of it, his approach towards visualizing things and putting it on paper was tremendous. And that's where I feel that there are such guys who walk that extra mile, and you kind of know that if you have better resources in your team, better resources who can think better than you, I think your half of your job is done because then you just have to keep empowering them, not feel insecure about them, but keep empowering them and keep them encouraged.
Sure. So the opposite side of the question, share the knowledge, experiential and other attributes of your mentee which you did not like and elaborate why.
Yeah. So people who come with the notion that they know everything, that is one thing that doesn't go well with not just me but anyone because then if you try to explain they actually don't know, but then if you try to explain Oh, I get it. Oh, okay, I know it. So they just kind of show that they know everything, but when time comes, you see that they always struggling. And despite all of that, they're not open to learn. And that is something which is detrimental for not just them but for organizations.
If given the opportunity, would you like to continue to work with your assigned mentee? If yes, elaborate why, and if not, elaborate why not.
So depends, if everyone makes mistakes, but if you're not learning from those mistakes and you're going to continue doing that mistakes, and if you're not true and honest to what you're doing, uh, if you're always trying to find shortcuts, then there will be those PIB kind of session, right, with them, and then over a period of time you'll be observed, watched. It's not going to be like, okay, you're not doing well, just just leave the organization. It will not. They'll be given chances, but if despite of all of that, if they're not improving, then it is, it's not prudent to kind of keep continuing with that, because there are some resources in the journey. I've seen that we have to, with the heavy heart, we have to let go and take to those tough decisions. So I would do that.
Sure. Help me understand the or help me understand the startup problems or challenges which got resolved during or after the mentoring session successfully, and elaborate how.
So one of the problem I can share is that as startups, um, you can't be too rigid. Of course, there are some principles that you have to be, you have to adhere to, because that's based on those principles you have raised that. But then, for example, if you're getting a break in a bigger organization, and if that the process and functioning of that organization in such a way that they start with something small, or they start with something, example is staff augmentation. So if that's how they start, and they kind of gauge how the partner is, and then slowly they start building on that confidence, and once they build on that confidence, then they pass on more and more work. So if you say that I'm not open for staff augmentation, if you say that no, this is not something which we will do, you need to be you need to be flexible there. So not being rigid is something which startups needs to
Sure.
understand.
Help me understand the startup problems or challenges which remained unresolved during or after the mentoring sessions, and elaborate why.
Mm, resolve.
Or maybe in process also sometimes, because it takes
Okay.
time sometimes to find a solution.
Yeah. So, so one of the examples which I can give is, there was one area where we wanted to work initially, again agri-tech, but then we were not getting a portion, uh, and that's where one of the organization uh, came forward, but they were just willing to do a POC, and that problem is still there. That despite having our IP there, we are still not able to kind of make them understand that we have been doing this for long, and we wanted your platform to start for us, and because you gave that opportunity to explore, but then now time has come that we need to monetize that. So that is one area where we are still struggling to, uh, because we don't want to come out of that, because we understand the potential of working with them. But at the same time, since we entered in a way where um, we were, I won't, I'm not sure whether it's the right word, but we were inferior, or we were uh, hungry, and based on that situation, we entered an agreement with them. But now, getting out of that has become a challenge, or converting that has become a challenge.
Sure. Share the details of the impact this mentoring program had in the growth of the startup you mentored.
Yeah. So one definite benefit which has come out of is, because of my sporting background, or because of the way I'm more of a people's person. I interact a lot with people. I've definitely got them connections in industries which probably they would not have explored or imagined. One such as being Persistent, another is NVIDIA, and there are a couple of food and beverages company in Germany. So I think that is something which, network and references plays a very, very big role, especially for startups.
Sure. Thinking about the entire mentoring program, share your thoughts and ideas on how can the future similar programs be improved further.
So the biggest insecurity of any startup is how long they will be in this game. And like initiatives like Atal Incubation Mission, or through the API, what is happening is, I think the insecurities needs to be handled well, because there are quite a few startups who have brilliant ideas, brilliant team, but the funding is not there, the sustaining power is not there. So once we need uh, more of entrepreneurs who will give that extended arm to them and help them. So it's a lot. Even in sports, I've seen a lot of talented people, they leave the game because they don't have the means to kind of continue doing that. So I think that's one area where we can help.
Elaborate how the mentee mentor selection and assignment process can be improved.
I think more and more dialogue, because then everyone kind of uh, gives that reason of being busy. But if you're really interested in doing something, you tend to find time with that. If you're really passionate, passion always finds a way and gets you time. So I think more and more interaction and more collaboration is most important thing. Otherwise, because of the miscommunication, you think something and then something else gets executed because there's a gap.
If given the opportunity, would you like to continue your mentoring journey with this mentoring program? If yes,
Oh,
elaborate, and if not, also you can elaborate.
no, yes, definitely, I would like to. But then, uh, yeah, but then I'm looking for, again, more and more organizations understanding what AIC is all about, or I think the visibility part should probably be more, or how they can benefit with such collaborations is something I think that message is not kind of getting through well, or maybe that's one area they need to look at, because typically when it is a government thing, people think that it is a typical old style thing. But now with this present government and what's happening with last 8 year, and I'm a big fan of Modi. So with all this happening with this government, I think people should understand there are a lot of government initiatives which are amazing, and they should come forward and make use of all these platforms.
So my questionnaire ends here. So what I will do is I'll
Okay,
stop sir here, and
sure,
then other things we'll discuss offline. I'll
sure,
just stop the recording.
sure.